and I'm going to start streaming LinkedIn, Facebook, and IBM. So all four should be streaming now. I've gotten a good stream from LinkedIn. Everyone's like 29, 30 frames per second. I can only say IBM. So all four should be streaming now from LinkedIn. Everyone's like 30 frames per second. Streaming now. Second. Welcome everyone to another Meet the Gurus. Thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate your time. Meet the Gurus, as all of you know, is dedicated to technology, business, and entrepreneurship and how these have powerfully converged today. It's sponsored by Starweaver, dedicated to spreading ideas and knowledge, typically in 45 minutes or less. It's part of our corporate social responsibility program. And today we have the awesome pleasure of having Roopam Gupta with us. Welcome, Roopam. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here, Paul.
Well, Roopam, I think one of the great things we can do right here is just let's start into talk about you. Give us a little background. Tell us how you came to do the various projects you've done in digital transformation and part of your career, and what drives you. I think that will be very helpful to everyone.
Yeah, I typically started my career after a post-graduation in engineering and post-graduation in business management from so-called
Technology, dedicated to spread 40 disability program, and today we have
marketing, all aspects of marketing, and then in recent one decade, which was a great learning organization, Bosch, Robert Bosch GmbH. So Bosch at various places in the world.
Here is just about you. Tell us how you do
management, and then slowly moved on to digital transformation. looking at the L&D part of it, e-learning part of it, and especially last 3 or 4 years, if I talk about, it was spent more in developing digital capabilities and digital competencies in Bosch employees, whom we used to call associates, across South Asia Pacific region in Australia, New Zealand, South Asia Pacific and New Zealand.
Disability program.
It was under basic learning or Bosch moved on. I was responsible for that. And from 2019 December onwards, I took up digital entrepreneurship myself, have become the startup mentor, and also did some program at IIM Bangalore, which was very effective one, thanks to Professor R. of IIM Bangalore. And digital competence on to this direction, and I feel very pleased about it. And last 2 years, I have done several projects on digital transformation, including Starweaver. So I am there. So that's about it.
That's fantastic. So what is, I mean, Bosch is a huge German engineering company in automotive and other areas. When you look at a company that's traditional, and of course there's banking and there's pharmaceuticals and all sorts of industries that need to be transformed so that the always-on generation connects with them, and also the suppliers and the customers and the suppliers and the associates internally. Let's just start talking about that. Let's talk about the big companies that need to become more digital, and that is what I mean. Bosch is an engineering company in automotive and other areas.
Yeah, that's
when you look at a company that's traditional, and of course
125, 130 years
pharmaceuticals and all sorts of industries that the always-on generation connects with them, and customers and suppliers and let's just start talking about that. Let's talk about the big companies that need to become more digital, and that is what
traditional organization.
I mean, Bosch is an engineering company in automotive.
Is the need of the hour, I mean, if we look at the database, all the organizations who refused to get digitalized, there's a joke going around, I will talk about it, there's a joke going around on social media. People talk about
generation
which is responsible for bringing digital transformation to your organization, whether it is CEO, CIO, or CLO who is responsible. And the answer is another C, that is COVID-19. So with all the negativity,
companies engineering company in automotive
if you look at research that why digital transformation is important. Having said that, I would say digital transformation is not about digital technologies only. That's the most abused word, I would call, if we talk about digital for being digital transformation comprehensively. Why? Because digital transformation, if I talk about it, CEO, CIO is digital and the other is transformation. So we forget transformation part of it whenever we talk about digital. So the digital technologies, and the answer is another stage. So re-engineer the processes to make them digitalized. And in the process, what we generally forget in traditional organizations is that the cultural shift of the transformation of the people is very important, which is left behind. So digital transformation has this important element of digital transformation of people, which is very important. All those jargons which digital technologists like transferring and will not touch the most important part of human resource would probably lose the way, and probably the digitalization is not be successful in such kind of organizations.
So, I mean, sort of in some ways, go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead, continue.
That's what probably Bosch taught me very well, and that is what is helping in my entrepreneurial journey, and also in my other journeys, which I'm going through right now. For organizations.
Yeah, so it's sort of, in some ways, it's like instead of providing someone with tools, you have to ensure that they know why the tools are important and why they're useful. There's an always-on generation now, I guess in the United States alone. I can tell you the statistics of the Pew Research was recently, basically 79% of people are mostly online all the time. I mean, there's, I think, 47% that are on most, some ways or so times a day, and the remaining percentage, 31%, are always online. So they're checking their phone, they're checking their messages, they're checking other things. And so, if someone wants to check their bank, they don't call the bank, they don't log into their bank account on their computer. Technically, they'll just click a button, open the app, and they're there. I mean, there's an interesting one about Fender. Fender, which was a guitar company, transformed digitally first by just providing a tuner. So your phone provides the tuning for the guitar chords and the guitar strings. And then they began to realize that they could sell, both lessons and provide people access to learning platforms online. So I think, and what are the critical steps in a digital transformation initiative? What does it mean to embark on this? Is it a project plan? Is it a waterfall project plan? Is it an agile initiative where you need to provide? So they check their bank. They don't Scrum Masters involved. What's the best way to adopt a digital transformation as a plan?
Okay. I'll answer your question in 2 lines. When you talk about people being online all the time, and
some
both very surprising data from a country like India. Yes, you talked about US, right? From a country like India, most of people will think that probably internet spread in India when we talk about, say, a particular number, 1.2 billion or something on internet all the time, and people will say, oh, probably 80-90% of them.
So I think this is a plan, isn't an app where you the bank can adopt a digital transformation.
75% of the internet coverage comes in India from rural areas.
Wow.
So you can imagine what exactly we are talking about.
Yep.
So what exactly has changed over a period of time? COVID being the COVID being the major trigger for that, and it is happening for years now. Maybe it was being neglected, and COVID brought that attention to all this. Is that the way our social behavior has got altered? Probably when we talk about way of communication, and you will notice that more in COVID times, that live streaming videos at personal and professional level both. Okay, and then you talk about the touchless commerce. You can see. Sitting at home, you on time, and 90% of how from rural behaviors have altered is exactly last mile delivery, total scenario change. So probably this digitalization or digital transformation is something which is not a push in an organization. It is a required pull which is coming from its social strata, from the social system. So every organization which wants to survive behavior has an idea somewhere, and competence and personal. It touches the data by McKinsey somewhere that 50% of the manufacturing will turn into robotics, by 2022. I'm sure COVID-19 might have changed this figure because this survey was 2019 end. So, but then I feel that it would have speeded the process of bringing in robotics and automation in manufacturing. 80% to 84% of people would like to see this digital transformation in the retail or the commerce sector. What exactly is the change? They want more of customer centricity. They want better customer experiences. So on and so forth, and it is in every sector. Like so this is a push which is this is a process which is not a push anymore. It is a pull which is coming from the social behavior of customers and expectations of the employees of the organization as well as the customers of the organization. Both have changed over a period of time, and that is why organizations have sectoralized. Now, talking about your second question, whether it is a waterfall model or it is a Scrum model, I think it is more about focusing on 3 major things, I will say. The first major thing is looking at the process. What process is in the system? For the years together, for the decades together, dissect them, we call them process disrupt them and see how digital technologies can bring customers of the information to those processes to make to bring more efficiency and value for the organization. Both have the obviously then the most important thing, second important thing when I talk about it is how the cultural shift in the organization and the competence building within the organization is required so that people know how new processes will affect their respective functional areas, and looking at what is required to bring in those changes. Call them and the third and most important thing is enhance customer experiences and employee experiences both. CX and EX both have big process. And to bring values to our at the center of entire digital transformation, I think organization is moving in the right direction. And when it comes to how and where and when and which way that happens, then it is about organization or the people follow model or a scrum model. I think it is based on the process we are talking about. Primarily, the business models have to be innovated, have to be redesigned, have to be worked on. So it looks like we are getting lost in the jargons actually, but actually it is not like that. Respectively, you have to bring in each and every experience in the organization. To bring you have to at the center of entire digital transformation process. I think organization understand that where you can introduce digital and when it comes to how looking at the competence of your people rather than which way that happens, then it is organizing some of the artificial intelligence or augmented reality, virtual reality and cyber security stuff. Primary, big the business models have to be innovated, have to be redesigned, understanding, feeling, oh, this is something. So it looks like that we are getting lost in the jargons actually. Right. So that's actually it is not. There's respectively to bring in communication and collaboration at the center of our digital transformation process. I think
yeah, so I mean, it's I would imagine in every organization, whether you're a massive company like Bosch or you're a digital startup, you always want to look for quick wins, right? Because a quick win will beget another quick win, which will beget another one, which will sort of snowball into a bigger one. So it's very hard, I imagine, on all sides of this, an organization is a bit of a supply chain from its suppliers to its customers, right? So you want to have wins on both sides, I suppose, and to your employees as well, right? And so with all organizations, I don't care how big they are, they have limited resources, allocate them. Yeah, so I mean, you have this, I would imagine, in every organization, whether you're a massive company like Bosch, or how do you look at, a digital startup, like if you're Bosch, you always want to look for quick wins, right? Losing one will say they are, but other quick wins, you get another, losing market share in a certain part of their so, business. It's very hard to imagine. Do they then say, hey, how can we make this more customer-friendly, customer-centric, so you want to have wins on both sides. We can take a market share as well, right? With other people. So with all organizations, initiatives. So I'm asking a lot of wines. I would imagine every organization, whether you're a massive company, market analysis, or is it one thing you just have to do? Like if you're buying, you always want to get to do it. Every market analysis will say, hey, everyone else is digital. This is a clarity losing market share in a certain or take a more they then say, hey, how can we make strategic plan that says we think this is going here, everything. So you want to have wins and you're going to look at it like I want to share in our plan. So in other words, how much is it? I need so I'm asking how much is I established rather than a massive competitive market analysis. I don't know if you always want to get to do it. We have some other questions coming. Say, hey, everyone, take it off the side. This is a clarity losing market share in a certain
because I think
or take a more they then say it says we think this is going here, everything you want to have wins and you're going to look at it like I want to share in our plan. So in other words, how much is it? I need so I'm asking how much is it? I established rather than a massive competitive market analysis. I don't know if we have some other questions. Say, hey, everyone, take it off the side. This is clarity. Or take a more
bringing this transformation. I think I can talk about Bosch more because I've seen it in live.
We think this is going here. Everything.
It has to be each and every point has to be turned into digital touch point. So if we think about a helicopter view or you 5,000 meters above the ground and you create a strategy. Chief executive officer, information officer of the chief digital officer of the organization. Bringing direct people to turn a different direction, the digital direction, and then probably strategy is created and the implementation is done, and then we are digitally transformed. I think we are living in a fool's paradise because in life, not exactly I wanted to say it has to start from the bottom and it has to be from bottom to the top or top to the bottom. So every function of the organization, a helicopter is above the ground and you create a strategy. When we talk about competitive edge, I think that is the real definition of digital transformation. That how the digital direction and then probably the implementation is done and then the superlative customer experiences by bringing digital technology live innovative redesign and it has to be re-engineered process. Every function of the organization, a helicopter is above the ground.
So a question that's coming in on live stream is which departments inside the which departments typically pose the biggest challenge? Is there a best and a worst departments to deal with?
Real definition of digital transformation. I think it is very difficult to point because every organization and we are working. So if I bring in digital technology like Bosch, it will be very difficult to mention because every department is driven in a certain direction, but most of the organizations are innovative redesign new organizations.
Live stream.
I will say
is which departments inside the is challenge? Is there a best and a worst department?
Definition of digital transformation, or even if I talk about it is very difficult to point because the finance sector and the marketing have seen digital transformation in a much better manner. Marketing every organization, they are the closest to the customer department, they know the customer expectations of the organization. But to point out innovative redesign where probably it happened very well and it didn't happen is very difficult task. It depends on organization. It varies from organization to organization.
Yeah, I can imagine. And so another one is the question here is how do you avoid falling back into old habits instead of transforming forward? I imagine it's a lot easier to keep things the way they are, and it's a lot more difficult to reimagine how an organization implements things. Is there a I guess part of it falls back to training, right? To sort of organizational education to ensure people are aware of where the organization is going.
It is very difficult correctly. Can you please repeat the question for me?
Sure. The question is, how do you avoid falling back into old habits instead of transforming forward? Another one is transforming forward.
Where the entire, secret lies. Secret for success lies. The key for success lies. As I already talked about it,
I guess part of it.
That's the biggest barrier to digital transformation which we see in the organization, and we see lesser of it in startups and new organizations rather than the traditional.
Part of it, so to ensure sure to avoid faults instead of
involved. There is every possibility somebody sitting in one corner doing the same task.
Another one is
and doing it very successfully and showing very good performance. Digitalization or digital transformation. I mean, whatever I'm doing at a speed which is much better than anybody else doing across the world in the same organization or in other organizations. I think transformation. That's where you have to make people understand and make people part of the system of the transformation and make them understand how the things are not somebody sitting efficiency is going to improve, the employee experiences are going to also successfully. So I think when we talk about Bosch also, if you allow me to take that example every time, I mean the first thing that Bosch did was developing the competence of the people ensuring that the capacity is developed, and it was not training people on digital transformation or in terms of digital technologies only. It was making sure that people bring in their processes because they are working efficiency in those processes, successfully. If I talk about Bosch India, Bosch involved IIM Bangalore, the best of the business school out here. And Professor R. Srinivasan, Bosch, if you think that being the driver of digital transformation in India. So, I mean, each function, each department, and at each hierarchy level, people brought in the processes, and they were trained to do the analyzing, not generative process. It was and in their becomes part of their that was the core of Bosch India, and that's why Iron Bosch was so successfully is able to transform the entire process. And that's why Professor R.C. Srinivasan doing the transformation is helping in last 2 years in doing all the work I do. So, I mean,
It's fascinating. I was rereading. I took out a book of mine. I don't know if it's flipped. It's called Being Digital. This book was written by a genius professor at MIT, head of the media lab. Now, in the mid '90s, 1995, this book was written. Okay, and rereading it because I read it in 1995. I saw him speak. He's an interesting man for sure, and. He says, and I was going to try to find the exact line, I didn't find it, but it basically says that digitization, again, 1995, is going to be a generational problem. It's not going to be a technological problem. And it's interesting, it's not going to be between the have and have-nots. To your point about India and the rural communities that don't have technology close to what cities have, major financial centers around the world for sure. And it's fascinating that that's probably right. That that people over a certain age just don't get it, and that people under a certain age get it all the time. I was having dinner with friends, and someone who was just graduating college sitting next to me was, he was talking about, distributed finance, and he said, it's like crypto's getting old. and HTF, RFs are, and why? And I had to ask him, why are they there? What is the purpose? It's not going to be your point. He pointed out to me which I would have never understood. I would have sat looking at it forever. It's not really about collectibles, but it's about access. It's about access to people. It's by getting those things, you get access to clubs. It's like getting a black card in American Express or something. Your access to it was being next to club. So. I think it's really essential. He said, turn to a young generation who lives and breathes the always on. I don't know if the 30% of that population that Pew studied was heavily skewed, but I imagine it's heavily skewed. And people under the age of 30 who are living and breathing, and organizations who are not under the age of 30, who are well older, need to listen to that audience and need to make sure their beliefs, their ways of doing things are spread more broadly. Access to people, as opposed to a top-down. It's almost like there maybe needs to be a bottom-up approach to digital transformation. Getting a what the young people in the organization want, because they won't join your organization unless you are digital. I don't know if
very right. So very rightly so. My daughter is 8 years old, is sitting at home for the last 2 years for her online classes.
It was skewed, and organizations were
onslaught. And sometimes I just look at her, the way she can make presentations, the way she plays with the different
all need to listen. Ways of access to them, it's almost bottom up.
I think about it and I think, I started doing it at 22 years of age or maybe 25 years of age. What she's doing at 8 years of age, a simple Google Classroom which I run for some business school for
digital transfer young
classes. I'm very proud to tell you that she's the one who taught me how to make presentations out there, and how to connect to the classroom and how to register attendance. All those things, this generation and the class. I know you're talking about she can make teenagers and above, but then
need to listen
the generation next to them. So I think integration of knowledge and collaboration 2 years of generations is also very important when we come to digitalization. Even in offices, that's what I talked about. Even in workplaces of age and Google business, different generations, the generations which have been traditionally using certain processes with a lot of efficiency and effectiveness, I know. Now the new generations are working with the digital and then the collaboration between them, so that we can reach a point where we talk about customer centricity, competitive edge, value and revenue being generated because of new digital technology. Digitalization. I think this kind of collaboration is very important between them.
It's interesting that there's a lot of retail under attack. Amazon, I personally have a different opinion about it, but a lot of people thought of Amazon as being threatening. In fact, that Amazon has enabled lots of companies. So how do you think of traditional retail, and where do you think that's going?
Actually, revenue being, I think if we talk about physical stores becoming obsolete, I think we are wrong in that. You know, if we say, all those traditional stores, I'll come to Amazon about this. Traditional stores will become.
But there's Amazon have a different thought about.
Not going to happen, because even if you look at traditional stores, a lot of them have started bringing a lot of innovation. So there is a portmanteau with as we call it, physical store becoming digital. Lots of brands like
threatens companies, traditional.
If you go to an airport in Europe or America, you'll find Nespresso's becoming machines. Where you need to just press something and you'll get everything. Through artificial intelligence, it will detect everything. You just need to walk out, and you'll not find any person to help you out there, or maybe one person standing in one corner. So what I mean to say is that if we really feel that Amazon can take over everything, or Flipkart or Snapdeal or physical marts of the world can take over and make the traditional stores obsolete, I think we are mistaken on that.
Well, they have to transform. I mean,
these are complementary to each other. Other stores need to get everything in competition with each other.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I mean, I don't know what the exact statistic was, if I recall, and I'm probably wrong. 12% of Walmart's sales occur digitally in their stores. Yes. That is to say, someone walks into the store, maybe they don't want to carry something home, right? It's a big object, or it's too many objects, and they just walk around the store, finding the best price. Maybe they compare on Amazon. Is it a good price, or is it not a good price? Or what are the reviews? I often walk into a store and I want to see what the reviews of a product are, right? That's the simplest of digitization. But I was fascinated. There's the Amazon Go stores, which are retail supermarkets. People still go into supermarkets, obviously, for the obvious things, but it's also for the experience. I don't know if it's exactly. It's for a good experience. I remember back in the day, way back in the day, in the 90s, Gateway Computers had created gateway experiences that would, while everything was going online, they wanted you to come into a Gateway store, and they had, I think their theme was cows, and so that all the stores were, speckled like cows. So we haven't disappeared as finding the best price race. I don't know. Right? So we will be in the physical world. We just have to make it more fun and more engaging and more attractive to be in those physical spaces, right? So instead of being a couch potato and sitting at home and digitally scanning, people want those live experiences. Supermarket.
Yeah, of course. I mean.
Or back computers, experiences that would wanted your cows, and so that all the stores were cows.
I'll talk about two aspects of that. There are some products, probably few $1 million US dollars, you will not spend in buying a car unless
so stores.
And you had a test drive or a demonstration, or even if you forget about test drive or demonstration, at least you would not have touched it and felt it. You would not like to buy it on Amazon or some similar platform. Similarly, jewelry
spaces, right? So instead of being digitally scanning, supermarket
available on digital platforms these days. But then
so that all the stores were cows.
Human character of touching and feeling it, and having that proximity, and then having that sense of belonging, and probably $2 million US possessing it.
So stories.
So I think if somebody says that digital, we talked about test drive and demonstrate, but they do not have touched it and like to buy it on Amazon or some similar.
But digital
similarly jewelry.
Yeah, but digital companies like Venmo, let's see an example. Venmo and others can really damage put a dent in the business of these massive financial institutions if they don't move fast enough. So if they're wedded to their own ways of doing things, and they're not really pivoting fast enough, they a lot of I think most people who are betting on fintech companies aren't betting on companies that are finance companies, financial services companies becoming technology. They're betting on technology companies becoming financial entities. maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like that's a huge opportunity for established companies to either buy, build, or transform themselves into real, much more digital entities. I've always said to my kids that money is a concept. Money is a concept. It's a shared concept that we have. But digital, I think Noah, Yuval, digital companies like Venmo. Interest subjective is not smell, doesn't smell good, doesn't smell bad, you can't hit it really, piece of paper, but it's a shared belief we have about what something is worth and what it's not worth, and exchange of value. So I think it's probably one of the first and most powerful areas where digital transformation needs to make the biggest impact for these companies. To my kid,
Yeah, sure.
money is a concept.
Yeah.
So thanks very much, Roopam. I appreciate your time. I appreciate digital Noah, you again, and look forward to having you again. And for those of you who are watching, sign up for our digital transformation event. It's coming up in February, and we're looking to spread knowledge with a lot of great speakers from major organizations and from the Agile community. Probably talk to you again on the next Meet the Gurus. Thanks for joining.
For the player being here. Thank you.
Areas with digital. That's a huge